everyone. I'd like to continue the previous story. I hope you'll keep enjoying it. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Is that why you helped me last night? Saria asked. Because of the water dream. Liet smiled. Partly, but also because I saw in you the same curiosity that drove Padokines. The need to understand, to look beneath the surface. That is a rare quality, child. Most people see only what is in front of them. They accept the world as it is. But you ask questions. You seek deeper truths. That is valuable. He rolled up the map carefully and returned it to its shelf. The Fremen you saw last night, he said. They were trading spice for equipment, water condensers, pressure pumps in sealed containers, things they need for the transformation work. The off-worlders they dealt with, some are genuine traders who care only for profit. But others, like that false soldier, they have darker purposes. What will happen to Master Harren? Saria asked, the worry returning. I do not know, Liet admitted, but I have some influence still. Friends who listen when I speak. I will send word to certain people. They will keep watch on your master's shop. If the Harkonnen agents move against him, they will find resistance. Who are these friends? Saria asked. Better you do not know names, Liet said gently, but understand that there are networks on Arrakis that exist beyond the official power structures. The Fremen have allies in the city, people who sympathize with their cause or simply oppose the great houses. We watch out for each other. He moved to the door and checked outside briefly before turning back to Saria. Come, it is time to return you to Master Harren. He will be worried and we must tell him what you discovered. But first, a lesson in discretion. What I have told you about the water transformation, about Kynes' plan, that is not common knowledge. Many Fremen would be angry that I shared it with an off-worlder. You must keep this secret, Saria. Can you do that? I can, Saria said, and she meant it. The trust Liet had shown her felt sacred, not to be betrayed. They made their way through the morning streets of Arrakis. The city was coming alive with the day's business. Water sellers called their wares. Merchants opened their shops. Children ran errands while their parents watched from doorways. It all looked normal, peaceful even, but now Saria saw it differently. She saw the layers beneath the surface, the hidden currents of trade and politics and ancient dreams. Master Harren was indeed worried. He nearly collapsed with relief when Saria walked through the door, Liet close behind her. Where have you been? He demanded, his voice sharp with fear that disguised itself as anger. I thought they had taken you. I thought... He stopped, seeing Liet, and his expression changed. You? I know you. You are the old plantologist, Padokines' assistant. I was, Liet acknowledged. And I have kept your apprentice safe through the night. But we must talk, Master Harren. She stumbled onto something dangerous, and you deserve to know what. They gathered in the back room of the shop. Master Harren listened as Saria and Liet explained what had happened. His face grew darker as the story unfolded, particularly when they described the false Atreides soldier and his threats. Ah, fools, he muttered when they finished. The Harkonnen are fools to move so openly, and I was a fool to confront that agent. I should have simply refused sail and reported him to the Atreides authorities. Perhaps, Liet said, but what is done is done. Now, we must think about protection. You cannot simply hope they will forget this insult. What do you suggest? Master Harren asked. Liet was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "The Fremen owe me certain favors, old debts from my time living among them. I could arrange for watches to be placed near your shop. They would be invisible, unnoticed by any who did not know to look for them. But if the Harkonnen agents return with ill intent, they would find themselves facing desert fighters." The Fremen would do this? Master Harren asked, clearly surprised. For me, yes, Liet said. And perhaps for their own reasons as well. They have no love for the Harkonnen. Any blow against those butchers is a blow they are happy to see struck. Master Harren considered this, then nodded slowly. I accept your offer with gratitude, though I must ask what would be the price for this protection. No price, Liet said. Consider it payment for the many times you have sold spice to Fremen visitors at fair prices without question or judgment. They remember such kindness. After Liet left to arrange the protection, Master Harren turned to Saria. His expression was complicated, mixing anger with relief, and something that might have been pride. You were very foolish last night, he said. Following those men, putting yourself in danger. I should be furious with you. I am sorry, Master, Saria said, looking down. But, he continued, you also showed courage, and your discovery may have saved both our lives. If we had been unprepared when they came for us, the outcome could have been very bad indeed. He moved to the shop's front window, looking out at the street. This world, he said quietly, it is more complex than you imagined, yes? When you arrived, you thought it was simply harsh, hot and dry and difficult. But you are learning that the real challenges are not the heat or the water shortage. The real challenges are the politics, the conspiracies, the hidden wars being fought in shadows. Lee told me about the water transformation, Saria said, about Kyne's dream. Master Harren turned to look at her, his eyebrows raised. Did he now? He must trust you greatly to share that. The Fremen guard that secret carefully, for good reason. Do you think it is possible? Saria asked. Or could Arrakis really become green? I do not know, Master Harren said honestly. I have seen some of what they have accomplished. Hidden gardens in the deep desert, small oases that should not exist. They are making progress, certainly. But to change an entire planet, that is work for centuries, for generations beyond counting. I will not live to see it, nor will you. Perhaps our great-great-grandchildren might see the beginning of real transformation. He returned to his workbench and began the day's work, measuring out spice orders as if the previous night had never happened. But that is the beauty of it, he continued as he worked. The Fremen are not working for themselves. They are working for a future they will never see. That takes a kind of faith, a kind of hope that most people lack. It is admirable. Over the following days, Saria noticed the watches that Liet had promised. They were subtle, almost invisible. A Fremen in workers' clothing, who seemed to be repairing the building across the street, but who was always there. A woman selling water 2 doors down who never seemed to have many customers, but never left her post. A child playing in the street, who was always playing, never called home, never seeming to tire. The Harkonnen agents did not return. Either they had given up, or they had seen the Watchers and decided the risk was too great. Master Harren relaxed gradually, though he remained more cautious than before. Saria's routine returned to normal, or what passed for normal now. She worked in the shop, learned about spice grades and customer types, performed the water rituals morning and evening. But everything felt different now. She saw the city with new eyes, understood the currents beneath the surface, and she found herself thinking often about the water dream, about generations of Fremen laboring in secret to create a future they would never see, about the patience required for such work, the faith that it would matter despite the impossible time frame. One evening, as she and Master Harren performed the water ritual, she asked him something that had been bothering her. "Master, if Arrakis became green and wet, if the transformation succeeded, would that be good? I mean, the spice would stop flowing. The entire Imperium depends on spice. Millions of people would be affected." Master Harren sipped his water thoughtfully before answering. "That," he said, "is the question at the heart of everything on Arrakis. Is it better to preserve the desert and the spice, maintaining the system that enslaves us all to this harsh world? Or is it better to transform the planet, giving the Fremen the home they dream of, but destroying the thing that makes Arrakis valuable?" He set down his cup. "I do not know the answer," he admitted. "Perhaps there is no good answer. Perhaps whatever choice is made, someone will suffer for it. That is often how the universe works. There are no perfect solutions, only different kinds of trade-offs." That night, Saria stood at her window, looking out over Arrakis. The city lights flickered like stars against the dark. Beyond the walls, the desert stretched forever, holding its secrets close. She thought about Let in his hidden room, keeping alive the memory of Pardo Kynes and his impossible dream. She thought about the Fremen in their secret sietch settlements, planting grasses one handful at a time. She thought about the great sandworms moving beneath the dunes, ancient and powerful and utterly alien. And she thought about herself, a girl from nowhere, an orphan who had stumbled into something much larger than she had imagined. She was part of Arrakis now, part of its stories and struggles and dreams. The wind sang outside her window, and this time, when she listened, she thought she could almost understand what it was saying. Almost. She would keep listening. She would keep learning. And perhaps in time, the desert would teach her its deepest secrets. But that was work for tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after. For now, she let the wind's song lull her towards sleep, grateful for the shelter above her head, the water in her still suit, and the strange new family she had found in this harsh and beautiful world. The weeks that followed settled into a careful peace. The Fremen watchers remained, though they rotated positions and faces often enough that Saria learned to spot them by their stillness rather than their appearance. No more suspicious customers came to the shop. No more threats materialized from the shadows, but the peace was fragile, built on sand like everything else on Arrakis. The trouble began on a morning that seemed no different from any other. Saria was organizing the display shelves when the door burst open with enough force to rattle the containers on the walls. A man strode in and everything about him screamed authority and danger. He wore the uniform of a Harkonnen officer, making no attempt to hide his allegiance. The uniform was black with red accents, and on his chest was the blue griffin symbol of House Harkonnen. He was tall and heavily built, his face hard as stone, his eyes cold and calculating. Behind him came two soldiers, also in Harkonnen colors, their hands resting on weapon belts. Master Harren stepped forward from the back room, his face carefully neutral. "This establishment serves all customers," he said evenly. "But I must inform you that House Atreides now rules Arrakis. Harkonnen officers have no official standing here." The officer smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Official standing is not required for commerce, old man. I am here to purchase spice, not to discuss politics." "What grade do you seek?" Master Harren asked, maintaining his professional tone despite the tension radiating from him. "The finest you have," the officer said. "Money is no object." He pulled out a heavy purse and dropped it on the counter with a thud that spoke of significant wealth inside. Master Harren did not move to examine the purse. "I sell spice to those who pay fair price. I do not give discounts, nor do I inflate costs based on a customer's appearance. If you wish to purchase, I will name a fair price for the grade you select." "Oh, fair price," the officer repeated, his voice mocking. "How noble! Tell me, merchant, did you offer such fair prices when House Harkonnen ruled this world, or did you learn this honesty only after the Atreides arrived?" "I have always maintained the same standards," Master Harren said quietly. The officer walked slowly around the shop, examining the shelves, picking up containers and setting them down with deliberate carelessness. Saria saw Master Harren's jaw tighten, but he said nothing. "My name is Captain Volk," the officer said as he browsed. "I served House Harkonnen for 20 years on Arrakis. I know every merchant, every dealer, every grain of spice that moved through this city. I remember those who were loyal to my house, and I remember those who were not." He stopped in front of Master Harren. "I remember you, Harrenveld. You sold to us, yes, but always grudgingly, always with that look in your eyes that said you found us distasteful. Never the warm welcome you gave to others. Never the small courtesies that build good relationships. I treat all customers with respect," Master Harren said. "Respect," Captain Volk spat the word. "The Atreides think they can rule Arrakis with respect and honor. They think the desert will bend to their noble principles, but the desert does not care about honor. The desert respects only strength." He leaned closer to Master Harren, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. House Harkonnen will return," he said. "Perhaps not this year, perhaps not next, but we will return. And when we do, we will remember who showed us loyalty in exile and who did not." One of the soldiers behind him stepped forward, and Saria saw his hand move toward a weapon. But before anything could happen, a voice spoke from the shop's entrance. "That sounds very much like a threat, Captain." Everyone turned. A man stood in the doorway dressed in the formal uniform of House Atreides. He was younger than Captain Volk, perhaps 30 years old, with the bearing of someone trained in both combat and diplomacy. His hand rested casually on the hilt of a blade at his belt. "Captain Volk," the Atreides officer continued, stepping into the shop. "I am Lieutenant Garrett of the Atreides Security Force. I have been tracking your movement since you arrived in Arrakis 3 days ago. You have visited 17 spice merchants, making similar speeches at each one. This constitutes harassment and intimidation. I am afraid I must ask you to leave this establishment." Captain Volk's face darkened with rage. The Atreides have no authority over Imperial citizens, over commercial transactions, Lieutenant Garrett interrupted smoothly. "Actually, we do. Duke Leto holds this world by Imperial decree. That gives us full authority to maintain order and protect merchants from intimidation. Now, you can leave peacefully, or I can have you escorted to a holding cell while we investigate whether you have broken any laws. Your choice." For a long moment, the two officers stared at each other. Saria held her breath, certain that violence would erupt. Then Captain Volk laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. "Very well, Lieutenant, I will leave. But remember what I said, Merchant. House Harkonnen never forgets. Never." He swept out of the shop, his soldiers following. Lieutenant Garrett watched them go, then turned to Master Harren. "Are you unharmed?" he asked. "Shaken, but uninjured," Master Harren replied. "Thank you for the intervention. Though I must ask, were you truly following him, or did someone alert you to his presence here?" Lieutenant Garrett smiled slightly. "Let us say that House Atreides has friends in the city who inform us of potential problems. Your shop has been under observation since the incident with the false soldier 2 weeks ago. We take the safety of law-abiding merchants very seriously." He glanced at Saria, his eyes sharp and assessing, then back to Master Harren. I would advise caution in the coming weeks," he said. Captain Volk was not exaggerating when he said House Harkonnen plans to return. "We have intelligence suggesting they are preparing some kind of operation. What exactly, we do not yet know. But merchants who deal in spice should be especially careful." After the lieutenant left, Master Harren closed the shop early and poured them both extra water, breaking from the usual ration. They sat in the back room, and for a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Master Harren said, "This is getting more dangerous than I anticipated. The Harkonnen are not simply making threats. They are preparing for something larger." "What can we do?" Saria asked. "Very little, I fear. We are small people in a game played by great houses. The best we can do is survive, keep our heads down, and hope we are not caught in the crossfire when the hammer falls." But that evening, Leet appeared at the shop's back entrance. He looked more serious than Saria had ever seen him. "I bring warning," he said without preamble. "The Fremen have learned something. The Harkonnen have established a base in the deep desert, hidden in the rock formations near the false wall. They have perhaps 200 soldiers there, along with weapons and supplies. They are preparing for a strike against Atreides holdings." "When?" Master Harren asked. "Soon. Within weeks, perhaps days. The Fremen Council is divided on what to do. Some say they should inform the Atreides. Others say they should attack the base themselves, eliminate the threat before it can grow. "And you?" Saria asked. "What do you think they should do?" Light's expression was troubled. "I think this is bigger than anyone realizes. The Harkonnen would not risk such an operation for a simple raid. They are planning something that could change the balance of power on Arrakis. And when great houses clash, ordinary people suffer." He turned to Master Heron. "You should consider leaving the city for a time. Take Saria and go to one of the outlying settlements. Wait until this storm passes. And abandon my shop?" Master Heron asked. "My life's work? Better to abandon the shop than to lose your life," Liet said bluntly. "I have seen what the Harkonnen do when they move against their enemies. They are thorough, and they are brutal. If they decide to make examples of merchants who refuse them, you will not survive." But Master Heron shook his head stubbornly. "I will not run. I have lived through Harkonnen rule before. I survived then. I will survive now." Leet looked like he wanted to argue, but he simply nodded. "Then I will ensure the Fremen watchers remain vigilant, and I will keep you informed of any developments." After he left, Saria helped Master Heron secure the shop for the night. They checked every seal, every lock, every possible point of entry. The routine tasks were calming, giving her hands something to do while her mind raced. That night, sleep was difficult to find. Saria lay on her mat, listening to the wind and thinking about the Harkonnen base hidden in the desert. 200 soldiers, Liet had said, weapons and supplies, preparing for something big. She thought about Captain Volk's cold eyes and cruel smile. She thought about the Fremen debating whether to inform the Atreides or act alone. She thought about Lieutenant Garrett and his assurance that the Atreides were monitoring the situation. And she thought about Master Heron's stubborn refusal to flee, his determination to protect his shop, even if it meant risking his life. The pieces were moving on a board she could barely see. Great forces were gathering for a confrontation that could reshape Arrakis, and she and Master Heron were small figures caught in the middle, hoping simply to survive whatever storm was coming. She finally drifted into uneasy sleep, and her dreams were filled with images of soldiers in black uniforms marching across endless sand, of blue-eyed Fremen watching from hidden positions, of sandworms rising from the dunes like ancient judges preparing to deliver verdicts on the folly of men. The next morning brought news that sent ripples through the entire city. A spice harvesting operation had been attacked in the deep desert, not by sandworms, but by unknown soldiers who destroyed the equipment and killed half the crew before disappearing back into the sand. The city buzzed with rumors. Some said it was Harkonnen raiders, others claimed it was Fremen extremists. Still others whispered about forces from other great houses taking advantage of the chaos to strike at Atreides' interests. Master Heron and Saria heard it all as customers came and went, each one bringing fresh speculation and fear. The Atreides were increasing patrols. The guild was threatening to suspend service if spice production fell. The merchants were demanding protection, and through it all, the Harkonnen shadow grew longer. Saria saw it in the nervous glances people threw over their shoulders, in the way conversation stopped when strangers approached, in the tension that settled over Arrakis like dust after a storm. Something was coming. Something that would test them all. The peace had been fragile, built on sand, and now the wind was beginning to blow, threatening to sweep everything away. Saria stood at the shop window during a rare quiet moment, watching the street outside. The Fremen watcher was there, the same one who had been on duty for the past 3 days. He caught her eye and gave the slightest nod, a gesture of reassurance. But she wondered how much reassurance could truly be offered. The Fremen were formidable fighters, yes, but they were not an army. They could watch and warn, but could they truly protect against the kind of force that Captain Falk represented? Master Harren came to stand beside her, following her gaze. Whatever happens, he said quietly, we face it together. You are not alone in this, Saria. Remember that. She nodded, drawing comfort from his presence. They had become family of a sort, she and this old spice merchant, bound not by blood but by shared experience, by the rituals of water and work, by the simple fact of survival in a harsh world. The wind outside picked up, sending sand skittering across the cobblestones. Somewhere in the distance she heard the wail of a warning siren, one of the systems that alerted the city to incoming sandstorms. But the real storm, she knew, was still gathering, and when it broke, it would test them all in ways they could not yet imagine. She turned away from the window and went back to work, finding comfort in the familiar rhythm of measuring and sorting spice. Whatever was coming, they would face it. They would endure, because that was what people did on Arrakis. They endured. The invitation came 3 days after the Harvester attack. It arrived not through official channels or messenger, but through one of the Fremen watchers. The woman who had been selling water down the street approached Saria when she stepped outside to check the shop's external seals. The people of the sand extend an invitation, the woman said quietly, her blue eyes unreadable. Tonight, after the last light fades, come to the old storage yard behind the metalworker's shop. Come alone. Tell no one. Before Saria could respond, the woman had melted back into the street traffic, leaving Saria standing with her heart pounding and questions racing through her mind. She should tell Master Harren she knew. She should refuse such a mysterious summons, but curiosity and something else, something that felt almost like destiny, pulled at her. That evening, she told Master Harren she was tired and going to bed early. He accepted this without question, his mind occupied with inventory concerns and the continuing rumors of Harkonnen activity. Saria waited in her room until full dark, then slipped on her steel suit and crept out through the back exit. The storage yard was easy to find, a walled compound where metalworkers kept their materials protected from sand and thieves. But when Saria arrived, she found the main gate standing open, clearly left that way deliberately. She stepped through into shadows and immediately hands seized her from both sides. She tried to cry out, but a palm covered her mouth. "Peace," a voice whispered. "We mean no harm, but we must be certain you were not followed." They held her for several long moments, while others, she could not see how many, checked the street outside. Finally, they released her. "Oh, forgive the caution," the voice said, and Saria recognized it. Stilgar, the Fremen who had purchased ceremony spice from Master Harren weeks ago. "These are dangerous times. We cannot be too careful." Her eyes adjusted to the darkness, and she saw them. Perhaps a dozen Fremen, all in the practical stillsuits of the deep desert, all with those startling blue within blue eyes. They stood in a circle, and at their center was a small opening in the ground, what looked like an old maintenance access. "Come," Stilgar said. "The ceremony takes place below." They descended into the city's depths, moving through tunnels that Saria had not known existed. The passages were ancient, carved from living rock, cool and utterly dark except for the small glow globes the Fremen carried. Water trickled somewhere in the distance, and the sound was strange and beautiful in a way that only those who lived on Arrakis could truly appreciate. They walked for perhaps 15 minutes, going deeper and deeper until they reached a chamber that took Saria's breath away. It was enormous, easily 50 meters across, with a ceiling lost in darkness above. But what made it remarkable was the pool at its center. Water, clear and pure, filled a basin carved from stone. The pool was perhaps 10 meters wide and gave off the faint sound of gentle movement, suggesting hidden springs fed it from below. Around the pool, more Fremen were gathering. Saria counted at least 40, maybe more. Men and women both, and even a few children, their young faces already showing the blue tint that came from spice saturation. "This is one of our secret places," a voice said beside her. Saria turned to find a young Fremen man, perhaps her own age, with a kind smile. A water cache that has existed for generations. The city dwellers do not know of it, nor do the off-worlders who think they rule us. "Why am I here?" Saria asked. Why invite me?" "Leet spoke for you," the young man said. "He told us of your curiosity, your respect, your willingness to learn. The council decided you should witness what we are. Not the stories others tell about us, but the truth." He gestured to the pool. "I am Caliph of the Red Wall Sietch, and you are welcome among us, Saria of Arrakis." The ceremony began with silence. All the Fremen moved to the pool's edge and knelt, their heads bowed. The only sound was the whisper of water moving in its basin. Then one of the elder Fremen, a woman whose face was so weathered it looked like canyon walls, stood and began to speak. "We gather in the presence of water," she said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber despite its softness. "We honor the gift that gives life. We remember those who have gone before, whose water now flows in our veins. We look toward the future, when our children will walk on grass and swim in seas." She dipped a cup into the pool and raised it high. "This water we share tonight is not taken from any person. It comes from the deep places, from springs that have flowed since before our people first came to the sand. It's pure and free, a reminder of what Arrakis once was and what it will be again." She drank from the cup, then passed it to the person beside her. Each Fremen in turn drank, then passed the cup onward. When it reached Caliph, he drank and then offered it to Saria. She hesitated, unsure if she should participate in something so clearly sacred to these people. But Caliph nodded encouragingly. "You are invited," he said simply. "You are welcome." Saria took the cup with trembling hands and drank. The water was cool and sweet, the finest she had ever tasted. It seemed to fill not just her throat, but her entire being with coolness and peace. When everyone had drunk, the elder woman spoke again. "We are Fremen," she said, "the people of the sand. But we were not always so. Our ancestors came from green worlds, from places where water fell from the sky and rivers ran freely. We did not forget those places. We carry their memory in our blood, in our dreams, in our hopes." She gestured to the pool. "This water is our promise. One day, all of Arrakis will have such pools. One day our children will not need to measure water by the drop. One day we will transform this desert into paradise." The Fremen began to sing, a haunting melody that echoed off the chamber walls. Saria did not know the words, but the sound carried such longing, such hope, that tears came to her eyes. Caliph leaned close and translated quietly. "They sing of the future, of rain falling on dust, of grass growing in the dunes, of children playing in streams without still suits, without fear. It is the oldest song of our people." When the singing ended, the formal ceremony concluded, but the gathering continued. The Fremen broke into smaller groups, talking quietly, sharing food and water with a generosity that seemed impossible for people who lived in such scarcity. Caliph stayed with Saria, introducing her to others, explaining customs and traditions. She met warriors who had fought the Harkonnen for decades. She met engineers who designed moisture traps and water condensers. She met teachers who kept alive the old knowledge of green worlds. "We are not savages," an older man told her. His name was Shimum, and his face bore scars from some long ago battle. "The off-worlders think we are primitives, living in the sand like animals, but we have schools, libraries, technology. We simply hide them from those who would use such knowledge against us." "Why hide at all?" Saria asked. "Why not work openly with the Atreides? Duke Leto is said to be honorable." Shimum's expression softened slightly. "The Atreides are indeed better than the Harkonnen, but they are still off-worlders. They rule Arrakis because the Emperor commands it, because the spice flows here. If the spice stopped, they would leave in a moment. Their loyalty is to themselves, not to this world." "But the Fremen loyalty," Saria asked. "Is to Arrakis itself," Shimum said firmly. "This is our home, our only home. We will make it green, or die trying. No off-worlder can claim that dedication." As the evening progressed, Saria learned more about the Fremen way of life than she had imagined possible. They lived in sietch communities, underground complexes carved into rock formations across the deep desert. Each sietch was self-sufficient, with its own water reserves, gardens, schools, and defenses. "We number in the hundreds of thousands," Caliph told her as they sat at the pool's edge, their feet dangling in the cool water. "Perhaps millions, though even we do not know exactly. The sietches are scattered and independent. What unites us is the dream of water, of transformation. And you truly believe it is possible, Sarya asked, to change an entire planet? We must believe it, Caliph said simply. Without that belief, what would be the point of enduring this harsh existence? We suffer so that our descendants might live in comfort. We save every drop so that future generations might have oceans. The transformation is not just physical, it is spiritual. It gives our lives meaning. He looked at her with those startling blue eyes. You understand this, I think. You came to Arrakis alone, an orphan with nothing. But you found meaning in the work, in the rituals, in the daily struggle to survive. That is very Fremen in spirit. That is why Liat recommended you to us. I am honored, Sarya said, and meant it. Stilgar approached them, his expression serious. It grows late, he said. We must return you to the surface before you are missed, but first I would speak with you. He led Sarya to a quiet corner of the chamber, away from the others. You have witnessed something precious tonight, he said. A gathering of freemen, a water ceremony, our innermost customs. This is not done lightly. We do not show these things to off-worlders. Why show me? Sarya asked. Because Leet believes you can be trusted. Because we need allies in the city, people who understand us, who will speak truth about us rather than perpetuating lies. And because difficult times are coming, the Harkonnen prepare their strike. The Atreides prepare their defense. In the chaos that follows, the Fremen must protect their own interests. He fixed her with an intense gaze. If we needed to send a message to someone in the city, someone in authority, could you carry it? Sarya thought about this carefully. To whom would this message go? Perhaps to the Atreides? Perhaps to other merchants like Master Harren? Perhaps to Liat himself? The situation is fluid, but having a trusted messenger, someone who can move between the Fremen and the city dwellers, that would be valuable. I would carry such messages, Sarya said, if I believed they were for the good of all people, not just one faction. Stilgar smiled slightly. A cautious answer. Good. We do not want blind followers, we want thinking allies. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Go with water, Sarya of Arrakeen. You are a friend to the Fremen now. That is no small thing. Caliph guided her back through the tunnels, the journey seeming shorter on the return. At the storage yard, he paused before letting her go. The ceremony we performed tonight, he said. We do it once each month, on the night of the new moon. If you wish to attend again, come to this place at the same time. You will always be welcome. I will come, Sarya promised. She made her way back to the shop, her mind full of wonders. The pool of free water, the songs of transformation, the hundreds of thousands of Fremen living secret lives in the deep desert. It was a world within a world, hidden from the great houses and their politics. Master Harren was asleep when she returned, and she was grateful not to have to explain where she had been. She would tell him eventually, she decided, but not yet. The trust the Fremen had shown her felt sacred, not to be shared lightly. She lay on her mat and thought about Caliph's words, that she was Fremen in spirit, if not in blood, that she understood the value of meaning found through struggle. It was true, she realized. She had found more purpose in 3 months on Arrakis than in all her previous wandering years. The desert was teaching her, just as the blue-eyed stranger had promised on that first day. It was teaching her about patience, about hope, about working toward futures she might never see, about finding family among strangers and home in the harshest of places. Outside, the wind sang its eternal song. But now, when Saria listened, she heard in it the echo of Fremen voices raised in promise. The promise of water, the promise of transformation, the promise of a green world rising from golden sand. It was a beautiful dream, and she was a part of it now, whether she had planned to be or not. She closed her eyes and let sleep take her, already looking forward to the next new moon, when she would descend again into the hidden places and drink from the pool of free water. The desert had claimed her completely, and she was glad. The storm broke exactly 1 week after the water ceremony. It started with Master Heron collapsing in the shop. One moment he was measuring spice into containers. The next he was on the floor, his breathing shallow and rapid, his face pale beneath the tan. Saria screamed for help, and within moments the Fremen watcher from across the street was there, helping to carry Master Heron to the back room. A doctor was summoned, an older woman who served the merchant district and asked no questions about the blue-eyed man who had helped carry the patient. Dehydration, the doctor announced after her examination. Severe, combined with exhaustion and stress. His body has been running on reserves for too long. How much water has he been drinking? Saria thought about the careful rationing, the precise measurements during the daily rituals. The normal amount, she said. 1 cup morning and evening. The doctor shook her head. For a man his age, doing this kind of work in this heat, that is not enough. He needs at least double that, perhaps more. His body has been slowly drying out, and the stress of recent events pushed him past his limits. She prepared a solution of salts and minerals dissolved in water. He must drink this, a full cup every hour until he can stand without dizziness. And then he needs rest. Real rest, not just sleeping a few hours and returning to work. At least 3 days of doing nothing. After the doctor left, Saria sat beside Master Heron's sleeping form. The Fremen watcher, a man named Turok, stood in the doorway. "We will keep watch," he said quietly, "and we will send word to Liet. He should know of this." Saria nodded her thanks. She felt helpless, useless. Master Heron had taken her in when she had nothing. He had taught her a trade, given her purpose, treated her like family. And she had not even noticed he was suffering. Leet arrived within the hour, moving quickly despite his age. He examined Master Heron with experienced eyes, checked his pulse and breathing, then nodded to himself. "He will recover," Liet said. "But the doctor is right. He needs more water and much rest. This shop has been running him into the ground." "I can manage the shop," Saria said quickly. "I know the grades, the prices, the customers. I can keep things going while he recovers." Leet studied her. "You are young to take on such responsibility." "I am old enough," Saria said firmly. "Master Heron trusted me enough to teach me everything. I will not let him down now." Very well, Liet said. But you will not do it alone. I will arrange for help. Caliph can assist with the heavy work, and I will spread word through the Fremen network that this shop is under their protection. No one will trouble you while Master Harren heals. True to his word, Caliph arrived the next morning just after dawn. He wore city clothes rather than his desert still suit, and with his hood up and sand goggles on, his blue eyes were hidden. To any casual observer, he was just another worker. "Put me to work," he said with a smile. "I may be Fremen, but I have traded enough to know spice quality." Having Caliph there transformed the work. He was strong enough to move the heavy containers that Saria struggled with. He was personable with customers, his accent adding an exotic touch that some of them found appealing, and he knew Arrakis in ways that even Master Harren did not, understanding the deep connections between spice and desert in ways that enriched every transaction. "This grade," he told a wealthy merchant from off-world, holding up a sample to the light, "comes from the deep desert near the Great Flat. The sandworms there are ancient, and their presence saturates the sand with spice essence for kilometers. You can taste the difference. Try it." The merchant did, and his eyes widened. "You are right. This is superior to anything I have purchased before." They made the sale at a premium price, and after the merchant left, Caliph grinned at Saria. The off-worlders always assume city traders know more than desert folk. They do not realize the Fremen understand spice better than anyone. But running the shop was not without challenges. 3 days after Master Harren's collapse, Captain Volk returned. He brought no soldiers this time, which somehow made his appearance more threatening. He stood in the shop doorway, blocking the light, his presence filling the space like poison gas. "I heard the old man took ill," he said, not bothering with greetings. "How unfortunate. I hope he recovers soon." The words were polite, but his tone made them a threat. Saria stepped forward, forcing herself to meet his cold gaze. "Master Harren is resting. I am managing the shop in his absence. If you wish to purchase spice, I can assist you. If you have come for other purposes, I must ask you to leave." Captain Volk smiled that cruel smile. "So brave, so young and brave. Tell me, girl, has anyone explained to you how things truly work on Arrakis?" "I believe I understand well enough," Saria said. "Do you?" Volk stepped fully into the shop, and Saria caught the scent of him, sweat and metal, and something darker. "Let me educate you. This world runs on spice. Everything else, the politics, the noble houses, the treaties and laws, they are all just decoration. What matters is who controls the spice. House Harkonnen controlled it for 80 years. We made fortunes, we built power. Then the Emperor, in his wisdom or his folly, gave Arrakis to the Atreides. He picked up a container of spice, examining it. But the Emperor is old, and his power wanes. Soon there will be changes. Soon the natural order will reassert itself. And when that happens, those who showed loyalty to House Harkonnen will be rewarded, while those who opposed us—" He set down the container with deliberate care. "Well, Disloyalty has consequences. Before Saria could respond, Caliph stepped out from the back room. He had removed his hood and goggles, revealing his blue within blue eyes. He said nothing, simply stood there, radiating quiet menace. Captain Volk's expression changed. Recognition and calculation flashed across his face. A Fremen, he said softly, working in a city spice shop. How interesting. I am here as a friend, Caliph said, his voice calm but with an edge like a knife blade. Helping while the master recovers, but I am still Fremen, still bound by Fremen law, and Fremen law says that those who threaten our friends face consequences. Is that a threat? Volk asked. It is a statement of fact, Caliph replied. This shop is under Fremen protection. Harm comes to it or to those who work here, and you will answer to the tribes. All of them. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Captain Volk laughed, but the sound was forced. The Atreides have made strange bedfellows of the Fremen, he said, but allegiances shift, especially in the desert. Remember that. He left, but his words hung in the air like a curse. After he was gone, Saria let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Thank you, she said to Caliph. He was testing you, Caliph said, seeing if you would break, if you would offer tribute or show fear. You did well, but now he knows the Fremen watch this place. That will make him more cautious, but also more dangerous. A cornered desert rat becomes vicious. That evening, as Saria sat with Master Harren during his waking hours, she told him everything about the Fremen ceremony, about the protection they had offered, about Captain Volk's visit and Caliph's intervention. Master Harren listened in silence, sipping the extra water the doctor had prescribed. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. I should be angry, he said finally. You kept secrets, made alliances without consulting me, put yourself in danger. But I find I cannot summon anger. Instead, I feel pride. He reached out and took her hand, his grip weak but sincere. You have become more than my apprentice, Saria. You have become my successor, my heir in all the ways that matter. This shop, this trade, everything I have built, it will be yours when I am gone. And I see now that you will not merely maintain it. You will transform it into something greater. You are not going anywhere, Saria said firmly. The doctor said you will recover fully if you rest and take proper water. Perhaps, Master Harren said, but we must be realistic. I am old, and Arrakis is hard on old people. If something happens to me, I want you to know that this shop is yours. The Fremen trust you, which is more valuable than any amount of spice. Leet speaks for you, which gives you standing among those who know truth from lies. You have built something precious here. He closed his eyes, suddenly looking exhausted again. Now, tell me honestly, what do you think Captain Volk is planning? Saria considered the question carefully. He is gathering intelligence, she said, learning which merchants are loyal to the Harkonnen cause, which are not. When the time comes for their move, whatever it is, they will know exactly where to strike. Wise analysis, Master Harren said. And what should we do? We should tell the Atreides, Saria said. Lieutenant Garrett said they were monitoring the situation. He should know about Volk's visits, about the threats being made. Agreed, Master Heron said, but we must be careful. If the Harkonnen learn we have informed against them, they will move against us immediately. We need the protection to be in place before we speak. Over the next 2 days, Saria worked with Leet and Caliph to prepare. More Fremen watchers were positioned around the shop. Escape routes were planned in case evacuation became necessary. A cache of supplies, water and food and basic tools was hidden in a safe location that only Saria and a few trusted others knew about. And then, on the 3rd day, Saria went to the Atreides garrison and requested a meeting with Lieutenant Garrett. He received her in a small office, his manner professional but friendly. "What can I do for you, Miss Saria?" She told him everything. About Captain Volk's visits and threats, about the pattern of intimidation affecting multiple merchants, about the sense that something large was being prepared. Lieutenant Garrett listened carefully, taking notes. When she finished, he sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You are not the first to report such activity," he said. "We have received similar accounts from other merchants, other citizens. Captain Volk has been busy, but having your testimony along with the others gives us cause to act." "What will you do?" Saria asked. "Officially, we will increase security patrols in the merchant districts. We will interview Captain Volk and warn him that harassment of Imperial citizens will not be tolerated. We will make it clear that House Atreides protects those under its rule." He leaned forward. "Unofficially, we are preparing for the Harkonnen strike we know is coming. We have our own intelligence suggesting they plan to attack within the week, but we are ready. When they move, we will be waiting." "And the merchants?" Saria asked. "What happens to us when the fighting starts?" "Stay in your homes and shops," Lieutenant Garrett said. "Seal your doors. Do not venture out until the all-clear is given. The fighting will likely be swift and concentrated in specific areas. If you stay out of the way, you should be safe." Should be safe, not will be safe. The distinction was not lost on Saria. She thanked the lieutenant and made her way back to the shop. Master Heron was sitting up now, looking much better after days of rest and proper hydration. Caliph was helping a customer, his easy manner hiding the warrior readiness that Saria now recognized in all Fremen. She told them what Lieutenant Garrett had said. Master Heron nodded slowly. "Then it comes to waiting," he said. "Waiting for the storm to break." That night, Saria performed the water ritual alone. Master Heron was asleep, exhausted from the small amount of work he had insisted on doing despite doctor's orders. Caliph had returned to his sietch to report on events in the city. She poured her cup of water and raised it to the empty room. "To the desert," she said quietly. "To those who walk the sand. To Master Heron and his recovery. To the Fremen and their protection. To everyone trying to survive in this harsh and beautiful world." She drank slowly, savoring each drop, thinking about how far she had come. 4 months ago, she had been an orphan with nothing, arriving on a hostile world with no prospects and no future. Now she had family, friends, purpose. She had learned a trade and earned the trust of people who guarded their trust like water. The Harkonnen were coming, Violence was coming, change was coming, but she would face it with her eyes open, surrounded by people she trusted, fighting for something worth protecting. The wind sang outside, and in its voice she heard not just the desert's eternal song, but the whisper of water falling on sand, of grass growing in secret places, of a green future slowly, patiently being built by hands that would never see its completion. She was a part of that future now, part of the transformation, part of the dream. And when the storm came, she would endure. Because that was what people did on Arrakis. They endured. The attack came 3 days later, in the deep hours before dawn, when the city was at its most vulnerable. Saria woke to the sound of explosions, distant but unmistakable. She threw on her stillsuit and rushed to the window. In the direction of the spaceport, flames reached toward the sky, painting the darkness orange and red. Master Heron appeared in her doorway, moving more steadily than he had in days. "It has begun," he said simply. They made their way downstairs to find Caliph already there, along with 2 other Fremen that Saria recognized from the water ceremony. All 3 were armed with weapons she had never seen before, curved blades and strange pistols that looked too advanced for simple desert dwellers. The Harkonnen hit the spaceport and the Atreides command center simultaneously, Caliph reported. They have perhaps 50 soldiers in the city, maybe more. The Atreides are responding, but it will take time to organize a full defense. "What about here?" Master Heron asked. "Are we in danger?" Not immediately," one of the other Fremen said. Her name was Shani, and she moved with a grace that suggested deadly competence. "The fighting is concentrated in the government district, but Captain Volk may use the chaos to settle personal scores. We will stay and ensure no harm comes to this place." The next hours were tense beyond description. They sat in the darkened shop, listening to the sounds of battle echoing through the city. Explosions, gunfire, the roar of ornithopters flying combat patterns overhead. Occasionally, running footsteps would pass in the street outside, and the Fremen would tense, hands on weapons ready to defend. But no attack came to the shop. The Harkonnen were focused on their primary targets, trying to strike a blow that would cripple Atreides' rule. It was a desperate gambit, Saria realized. They did not have the forces to truly conquer the city. They were simply making a statement showing that the Harkonnen could still strike at will. As dawn approached, the sounds of fighting began to diminish. The Atreides were winning, pushing back the raiders. Lieutenant Garrett had been right. They had been ready. Caliph received messages throughout the morning via hand signals from Fremen positioned across the city. A network of communication that Saria had not known existed. Silent and efficient. "The Harkonnen are retreating," he reported. "They took heavy casualties. The Atreides captured at least 20. Killed perhaps 30 more. The rest are fleeing back to their hidden base in the deep desert." "And Captain Volk?" Saria asked. Caliph's expression darkened. "Dead. He led the assault on the command center personally. Died in the first wave when Atreides' troops counterattacked. He died as he lived. Violent and foolish." Master Heron let out a long breath. "Then the immediate threat is past." "Perhaps," Chani said, But House Harkonnen will not give up. This was just one attempt. There will be others. By midday, the all-clear had been given. The Atreides announced that the city was secure, that normal business could resume. But Arrakis would never be quite normal again. Too much had been revealed. Too much blood had been spilled. Saria and Master Harren opened the shop. Though few customers came that first day, people were still processing what had happened, still counting their dead and damaged. But those who did come spoke of the Fremen with new respect. I heard they fought alongside the Atreides, one merchant said, dozens of them appearing from nowhere, striking the Harkonnen from unexpected angles. Without them, the casualties would have been much worse. It was true. The Fremen had not remained passive observers. When the attack came, they had defended the city they called home, even if they did not acknowledge Atreides' rule. They had fought for Arrakis itself, for the ordinary people who lived and worked and struggled in the harsh city. 3 days after the attack, Liet came to visit. He looked tired, older than Saria had ever seen him. The Atreides are grateful, he said, settling into a chair in the back room. Duke Leto himself sent a message of thanks to the Fremen Council. He recognizes that without our intervention, the damage would have been catastrophic. Will this change things? Master Harren asked. Between the Fremen and the Atreides? Perhaps, Liet said. There is talk of formal alliance, of the Fremen coming out of the shadows, working openly with House Atreides to defend Arrakis. But many resist this idea. They fear that alliance will lead to control, that the Atreides will use us and then discard us as others have done. He looked at Saria. You have been part of both worlds now, city and desert, merchant and Fremen friend. What do you think? Should we trust the Atreides? Saria considered carefully. I think Duke Leto is honorable, she said. From what I have seen and heard, he truly wishes to rule justly. But he is still an off-worlder. He does not understand Arrakis the way the Fremen do. He sees the planet as a resource to manage, not a home to transform. Wisely spoken, Liet said. That is the heart of it. The Atreides want to maintain Arrakis as it is, to keep the spice flowing, to preserve the system. The Fremen want transformation. These goals may not be compatible, but perhaps, Master Harren said slowly, there is room for compromise. The transformation will take centuries. In the meantime, the Fremen could work with the Atreides, gaining resources and protection, while quietly continuing their long-term project. Neither side needs to know all of what the other plans. Liet smiled. You would have made a good politician, Master Harren. Yes, that is essentially what some of us are arguing for. Patient cooperation with our true goals kept secret. But it requires trust on both sides, trust that has not yet been fully established. Over the following weeks, life gradually returned to normal, though normal now meant something different than before. The Fremen presence in the city was more visible, not openly declared, but acknowledged by those who knew to look. Blue-eyed workers and merchants became a common sight, no longer hiding their origins. The Atreides increased patrols and security, but they did so in consultation with Fremen advisors. Lieutenant Garrett established a formal liaison program, creating channels of communication that had never existed before. And Master Heron's shop became something unexpected. A neutral meeting ground where city dwellers and freemen could interact, trade, and slowly build understanding. Caliph became a regular presence, officially hired as Master Heron's assistant. His knowledge of deep desert spice sources brought new business, and his easy manner with both groups made him invaluable for bridging cultural divides. Master Heron himself recovered fully, though he was more careful now about water intake and rest. He seemed energized by the new direction the shop was taking, excited to be part of something larger than simple commerce. And Saria found herself in a role she had never imagined, a trusted intermediary between worlds. The Fremen knew her from the water ceremony, trusted her with their secrets. The city merchants knew her as Master Heron's capable apprentice, reliable and fair. The Atreides saw her as a connection to the mysterious Fremen culture. She was building something, she realized. Not just a business, but a bridge. A small bridge, perhaps, but bridges started small and grew with time and use. 3 months after the Harkonnen attack, on the night of the new moon, Saria descended once more into the hidden chamber for the water ceremony. But this time, she brought someone with her. Lieutenant Garrett had asked, with surprising humility, if he might observe a Fremen gathering, not as a representative of House Atreides, but as a man seeking to understand the people his duke wished to protect. Stilgar had considered the request carefully, consulted with the council, and finally agreed, but only if Saria vouched for him, and only if he came unarmed and willing to participate fully in the ceremony. Now, as they stood at the edge of the sacred pool surrounded by Fremen from across the desert, Saria watched the lieutenant's face. He looked awed, humbled by what he was witnessing. The elder woman, the same who had led the ceremony before, dipped the cup and raised it high. "We gather in the presence of water," she said. "We honor the gift that gives life. We remember those who have gone before. We look toward the future, when our children's children will walk on grass and swim in seas." The cup was passed person to person, Fremen to Offworlder, and back again. When it reached Garrett, his hand trembled slightly as he accepted it. "To the water," he said softly, and drank. The Fremen began to sing, and Saria closed her eyes, letting the haunting melody wash over her. She thought about how far she had come, how much had changed. She thought about Master Heron recovering in his shop, about Liet keeping alive Kyne's dream, about Caliph building bridges with his easy smile and deep knowledge. She thought about the future, about the long, slow transformation that would take centuries to complete, about the patience required to work toward a goal you would never see realized. But that was the beauty of it, she realized. The greatest achievements were not those completed in a single lifetime, but those that required generations of dedication. The Fremen understood this in their bones, and now perhaps others were beginning to learn it too. The ceremony ended, and people began to mingle, Fremen and city dwellers together. Saria saw Lieutenant Garrett speaking earnestly with Stilgar, the two men finding common ground despite their differences. She saw young Fremen children playing with city merchants' sons and daughters, sharing water and laughter. Caliph appeared at her side, offering her a cup of the free water from the pool. "You have done well," he said, "building these connections, creating trust where there was none. Liet would be proud." "I have only done what seemed right," Saria said. "What the desert taught me to do. That is what makes it valuable," Caliph replied. "You did not follow orders or seek reward. You simply responded to what needed doing. That is the Fremen way." He gestured to the gathering around them. "This is just the beginning, you know. These small meetings, these careful alliances, they are seeds like the grass we plant in the deep desert. Most will not see them grow to fruition, but in time, they will transform everything." Saria sipped her water, feeling its coolness spread through her. "I can wait," she said. "I have learned patience from the best teachers." Later, as she and Lieutenant Garrett made their way back through the tunnels toward the surface, he spoke quietly. "I will report to Duke Leto about what I witnessed tonight," he said. "Not the location, not the specifics, but the spirit of it. The hope and dedication, the vision of a better future. He needs to understand what drives the Fremen, what makes them who they are." "And what will you tell him?" Saria asked. "That House Atreides should support the Water Dream," Garrett said. "Not openly, not in ways that would threaten the spice flow, but quietly, through resources and protection and leaving certain areas of the desert alone. The transformation benefits everyone in the long run, even if it takes centuries." They emerged into the cool night air, and Saria looked up at the stars that shone so bright in Arrakis's clear sky. Somewhere out there, the great houses played their political games. The guild navigated the void between worlds. The emperor schemed on his distant throne. But here, on this desert planet, something more profound was happening. A dream was being built, grain by grain, generation by generation, and she was part of it now, woven into its fabric by choices made and trust earned. Master Harren was waiting when she returned to the shop. He had stayed up despite the late hour, wanting to hear how the ceremony had gone. "Lieutenant Garrett was moved," she reported. "I think he truly begins to understand." "Good," Master Harren said. "Understanding is the first step to everything else. Without it, we are just strangers sharing space. With it, we might become something more." He poured water for both of them, extra rations to mark the occasion. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his cup. "To new beginnings," Saria echoed. They drank together, master and apprentice, family in all the ways that mattered. Outside, the wind sang its eternal song. The desert turned beneath its stars, and somewhere in the hidden places, Fremen planted grass and dreamed of seas. The transformation had begun long before Saria arrived on Arrakis. It would continue long after she was gone. But she was part of it now, a small thread in a tapestry being woven across centuries. And that was enough, more than enough. She went to her room and lay on her mat, listening to the familiar sounds of the night. The wind, the distant hum of the city, the creak of old wood settling. She closed her eyes and smiled. Home, she thought. This hush, beautiful, impossible world had become home, and she would spend her life helping to transform it, one small act at a time, one bridge built, one seed planted, one cup of water shared in ceremony and hope. The desert had taught her well, and she would honor those teachings for all her days. The wind whispered outside her window, and in its voice she heard the promise of rain falling on sand. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday, someday. And that, my dear friends, is where we will end tonight's story. I hope you enjoyed this journey to Arrakis, to the world of endless sand and precious water, where a young girl found family among strangers and purpose in the harshest of places. Until next time, may you find your own oasis in whatever desert you walk. Stay safe and sweet dreams.